So I have been experiencing mm, some 3 days of some intense inner pain. My voice is a bit weak at this moment, as I also have been fasting for 3 days, and apparently my voice wears off if I don't eat. So yeah, um, um, yeah. So 4 days ago, 3 days ago, I have been experiencing a situation that triggered an intense feeling of pain within me. Now, when I say intense, I don't feel it captures, it actually captures the intensity of how internal pain, or we could call it soul pain, can be felt in this particular person here. Like this particular individual here has its own template, as the design has opening to energy and to feelings. So even since I was a child, I could just feel things. I could just know things. Especially I could know how people think and feel without them opening the mouth. I could feel their vibe, if that makes sense. I could feel their energy, and in that energy, it's like things would be so visible. Things would appear so visible just by energy alone. It's like energy would say so much. She would say what people think, people feel, people what their fears are, what their high hopes are, what they love and what they hate. The energy says everything in a way. Here in this game, Sikh energy portrays the entire spectrum of what's going on within a human being at a certain moment. So this person here, this being, had as its own design, the design of its mind, the design of its system, the body mind soul system is designed in such a way in which it has this opening. It's like a door or a window that is open to energy and to feelings. And this opening, this door, is what made it that much of my life I felt debilitated by existing in this world, because without knowing what happens to me, because I only started to figure this out maybe 6 years ago. But until that point, I didn't knew why I felt so broke. I didn't knew why I couldn't function like a normal human being in this world. Like whenever I would go to certain groups of people or parties or anything that implied people, I'd feel completely exhausted and devastated inside, but I didn't know why, so I always thought it's my fault. This being here always thought it has something to do with me. I must do something wrong if I feel wrong. I must be something wrong, and that was even a core, even a deeper belief that I must be something wrong or bad if I feel this bad. Because I would go outside, I would go in society, let's say, I would go in normal human encounters, and I would always feel extremely bad, let's say, but I wouldn't understand why. So that feeling that would start to take place in me when I was around human beings, it would feel so intense that it would start to control my physical body. So many times when I would be around people, especially groups, I would just feel like in this frozen state of being where I couldn't say anything and I couldn't express, I couldn't move, I couldn't be expressive, I couldn't say what I think, I couldn't literally, I just felt I couldn't be myself at all. So I feel like when this inner pain starts to arise, those inner sensations, it's like the real self, me, would start to become frozen, like a creature that started to become imprisoned into a system that started to react on its own. Like my body would start to freeze, my psyche, my mind would start to go into panic mode, but without actually understanding that this is what was happening to me. So I was just feeling that I just feel shy, or I can't feel that I can talk to people or express out. When there will be groups that I will be more familiar with, this feeling would decrease. So family, let's say, I would be extremely expressive in the family because I would feel safe. But in other groups outside of the family is where I mostly felt extreme fear to express myself and to let this thing within me express itself. I felt afraid of that thing, probably creating outcomes, creating actions that other people might not agree with, and then they could somehow harm me, my body or my mind, or they could reject me, or they could abandon me, and things like this. So the idea is that when these feelings would arise, when these painful feelings would arise, they would take control over the body. So it wouldn't just limit themselves to some feelings that were occurring within me and no one could see, and it wouldn't affect anybody nor myself. They actually started to affect the body, and they would do the feelings would almost as much as the feelings would go on the intense level, the body would become almost paralyzed. It would almost go into physical um it's a word, but I can't find it. It's something like aposthesia, or there is a medical term in which a certain limb, when it goes into deterioration and freeze mode, and there is a certain medical term for this. I don't know if it's called aposthesia or something like that. So this is what would happen to my body. Like I would get freeze, and then in that physical state, coupled with the inner pain, there would be this. I would start to feel ashamed that I couldn't express, and people would look awkward at me, and I'd be that type of person that at a party you will just sitting on a chair for the entire night there. So people will start to ask like, "What's wrong? Like, are you okay?" I couldn't, like, I couldn't express. No way, I could not express what I felt because I myself in that period I had no recollection of what was happening to me. So I just saw myself like this, freezing, but I didn't know what was happening. So I couldn't even tell them what was happening because I myself didn't know. Because I wasn't recognizing this inner pain that was so present there that it was paralyzing and disturbing the body. So I couldn't tell them what was wrong. And then I felt a lot of shame because I felt like they were looking awkward at me and they would consider me like this freak or this. And I felt then even more pain and I became even more frozen. And Yeah. So um um the idea is that in this system here, in this person here, when inner pain starts to arise, it's not like it's different than just, oh, okay, I am having a bad feeling or a bad day. It's like when true deep intense inner pain arises, it's like complete clash of the system, of the body, of the mind, and of the soul. So there were days in the past that I could just only lay in bed, like I couldn't do anything else, and I would lay for weeks in bed out of these intense feelings of pain inside of me. So then my physical body would start to react, like hair would start to fall, and just the physical condition worsening, and everything culminated in this lifetime, going through different intense, let's call them experiences, intense painful experiences, mostly in relation to people. um and it all culminated in 1 year of an intense experience in relation to somebody, which he was not a partner, a romantic partner or anything, was a friend. But the experience itself got so intense on the painful side that I really felt like there was a time, maybe after 7 months or 8 months, and just to give more clarity into what happened, because I know sometimes I tend to speak on the overall story without giving details, and it might seem abstract and unrelatable. So just to give more details, like I I created a close relationship with a friend that actually helped me a lot on the spiritual side of things in a very, very dark period of my life. So I really trusted this person. So it was almost the first person that would, yeah, it was the single and first person that would actually, that made me aware of my own awareness. So it's the one who actually told me that you are your awareness, and wherever your awareness is, that's where you are. So when he said these words to me, I instantly remembered. It's like I instantly knew, oh my god, yes, this was it. This is what I was looking for all my life. I didn't understood that I am the awareness without, like, I was the awareness. I knew this since I was a child, but I didn't have the mental concepts to explain. And now when he said these words, I had a mental concept. I could understand what was happening to me, and now everything in a way made sense finally. So I had a lot of respect for this being because it helped my mind understand what was happening to me. But at a certain point, the situation between us shifted, and with after a series of events, this being started to threaten me, threaten my life. And this happened, these threats and this abuse is psychological mostly, but also physical in some couple of occasions. Um, Continued for maybe 7 months or 1 year, and it was very intense in those periods. The abuses were extremely intense. The psychological abuses, like a lot of emails, a lot of messages with threats of all kinds, like calling my family and threatening them, and it was a lot of intense physical, psychological pain. And I didn't know how to react to this because I really deeply felt such an intense respect for this being. I didn't. I went into that circle, like I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to go to the police. Let's. Because that I knew, I had so many evidences. Like I could go and he could be charged for something, and but I didn't want to hurt him. So I just knew that okay, there has to be a way in which we could. This situation is to be solved, without him being hurt because I really cared for him. So I just took it on myself and I tried to talk and I tried to be nice and I tried to explain and I then went on the aggressive side and I tried to be fierce and I tried to be aggressive and mm, put my foot on the ground, and but nothing worked. So not the gentle way and not the abusive way or aggressive way didn't work, because the person was remaining in the same position of really, really intense threats and violence, and nothing would change. So I've tried everything and nothing worked. So I remember there was maybe after 7 months, I remember it was October or something, it was near winter starting, and I was in my room, the family's house, and I was there, and I remember that it was this moment, this night, in which I really felt like my mind is on the verge of really shutting down. It's like I was psychologically becoming incapable of functioning anymore, with a lot of stress going on within me and without telling anybody, because I didn't feel like anybody could help me in this situation. So there was a lot of things existing within me, and I couldn't function. I really felt like my mind is on the verge of like becoming this like limbo creature where I would just start to look like this without knowing who I am, without remembering how to function in this world, and complete this disassociation, complete. I even thought like I would die out of that stress because my mind didn't feel like it can continue to process the emotions and the feelings and everything without, even though I was not aware. I was still not aware of my emotions at that moment. Like I was aware to a degree, of course, but to the superficial degree, not the root causes that were causing those emotions. So I remember it was one night, and I really felt like, no, I think if I if this goes on like this for even, I don't know, a couple more days or weeks, or I don't know if I'll be able to make it through this, and keep my sanity and keep my physical condition in this world, um and then I remember that night, first of all, what I did instinctually, like it's something, I don't know, like because I knew there was no way out, and there was like it felt for me like it was no other way out, and I felt like on the verge of complete helplessness. Like I knew there is nothing else that I can do, and the last resort would have been going to the police. But as I said, I didn't want to hurt this person on one side, and the other thing is that is like I was so terrified at that moment that all these scenarios would run in my head that if I go to the police, maybe even I will make it worse. Maybe they will charge this being with something, they will arrest it, he will stay inside for 1 year or something, some months, and then he will be released, and then he will come back even more fearful. So I had all these scenarios in my head, and I was trying to reconcile all these variables and factors, and so I remember there was a night, and what I did in that night is like the first thing I instinctually felt to do, and how I said is like in that moment of complete hopelessness, like I really had no more ideas, no more power to even think, no more energy to even do anything else. Like I knew I'm on the verge of like the end of it. And in that moment, I don't know, it's like something happened. Um, first of all, an instinct came, an instinct that told me to just surrender. Surrender to the fear, the most intense fear that was running through me at that moment. And the most intense fear that was running through me was the fear of death. Because this person, what it has had been doing, it was threatening my life, threatening to actually kill me in many, many ways. And he knew where I lived in both places that I would stay. He knew both of the places. And so the fear, the most intense fear, it would be the fear of dying. And this was the fear that was shutting down my brain because I couldn't process this anymore. So the instinct came, and the instinct was to just accept to die. So in a way, this is what I did. I just accepted to die, but really fully dying. I remember in that night, he was also threatening, he was also sending me a message, and he was saying that, okay, tonight, I think he even mentioned an hour. Like, he said, like, 4 a.m. tonight, I'll come, like, you'll be gone. And I just feel like I can't fight with this anymore. I don't have the energy or power to stand against this anymore, so I'll just surrender. So I just feel this instinct to surrender to that dying. So if I will die tonight, then yes, okay. It wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to accept this, and it was complete terror to accept it. And I had to go through some hours of just staying pure terror, waiting to die in a way. And I was waiting to that degree that I put the credit cards. Like, I had some money on some cards that I worked for my projects, and I had in the account some money, and I put them on the table so that my family can access them and maybe use the money. So I really thought this is it. Like, if it's going to happen, and I was mostly sure that, okay, I might not wake up in the morning or something. Then yeah, so be it. So I just totally accepted. And in that night, like, I totally accepted my death. I don't know how, but I really accepted it. And I woke up in the morning and I was not dead. But with that, the fear of death also died. It's like I completely accepted to die. And from that moment on, something new started to arise in me. Power. Like, I had all of a sudden fierce power within me. Like, no, this cannot continue like this anymore. This has to stop here and now. Like, no more abuse, no more life threats. It has to stop right now. But I was like, this intense power came over me. And when I was thinking now these things, like, it had an immense power behind them. Like, I felt so much determination and clarity within myself that, okay, this needs to end. And what I did then, instinctually, is that I went within my feelings for the first time in my life. Instinctually, I haven't read anything about this. I didn't have any information, but my feelings were so intense, like the pain, the terror, everything. And I knew there was a night again in which I completely immersed myself in the feelings of pain, of fear, of terror. It's like I don't know how I did it at that first time, but it's just like I melted. I completely dissolved myself. And only the feelings remained. Like, there was no more me anymore. It was only the feelings. And I was there with them. 100%. I was them. I was not anything else. than the feelings themselves. So I was one-on-one, completely merged and intimate with them, giving them myself, my own being. I was giving myself fully to the feelings, to the fear, to the terror, to the panic, to the rage, to the fury mostly. It wasn't rage, it was just anger. And I stayed like that. I remember how intensely difficult it was to stay like that. Like, I really feel like it was a superhuman thing at that moment for me, like to really stay in all that. It's like staying in the pain, in the epicenter of what pain is. Not only because this thing hurts, like only the physical sensation of pain or emotional sensation of pain, but going to the core of what makes pain be pain, that complete dissolution, that thing that eats everything and leaves nothing existing. So that was the root of pain. It was my complete dissolution of myself. So I stayed like that. I stayed within that dissolution, and I remember how difficult it was to accept being there and just staying like that. And I stay like that, and I stay like that. And I felt like I stayed like that for 3 hours, I think, in that night. And then something was starting to feel released. Like I didn't know what happened because I wasn't expecting this. I didn't do this with any reason or expectation. It was just the instinct that led me to do this. So I had no idea in my mind what this even means. I just surrendered fully to what was happening within me at that moment. So I stayed like that 3 hours in the first night, and then something got released. But I still felt there was something left. So in the second night, I continued, and I think I stayed like that again for 2 or 3 hours. And I immersed myself in everything. And all of the sudden, in all of those feelings, at first, in the first night, I would feel my own pain, my own terror, my own fear of death, everything that was going on within me. So I had to be there with my part of my pain. But in the second night, it's like this instinct within me. What it did is naturally it opened up the door to the pain this other person was feeling. So in the second night, I started to, it's like it opened up in front of me the entirety of what this person had been feeling all this time. And when I got to see what he was feeling, I felt how lonely he felt, how much he felt abandoned by me. And not by me necessarily, I was only a trigger, but how much he felt abandoned in itself, how much he felt itself isolated and in solitude. And when I felt this, it's like my soul just completely dropped any adversity to this person. It's like I had complete understanding, and even more, it's like all of a sudden I felt like complete, it's beyond compassion. It's complete understanding of another being. I completely saw him at the core of itself, at its most vulnerable and pure core, where he felt so lonely. And when I felt that loneliness, I understood completely. I can't describe, but like any trace of fear against him, any trace of adversity against him, any trace of anything completely dropped. Like I only had complete understanding complete understanding towards him. But the interesting thing is that it was a very just understanding. It's like I completely knew how he felt, and at the same time I completely knew how I had nothing in a way to do to fix that. So it was not my thing to fix it, but at the same time I could hold in me this energy of, okay, I got you. I got you, I see you. It's like, I understand now. I completely see you. But it was not my human role to go there and save him or something from this loneliness. I instinctually saw the entire picture of it. So I saw his life, his feelings, everything. I saw my role and my feelings and how we clashed and how we triggered, and I knew like I couldn't be a savior. That was not how it's supposed to be. But it was just the situation was just the way it was. Just by me recognizing that, I felt like an enormous thing has happened. It's like somebody has seen into its soul, somebody has seen into him, and something extremely like opening has happened in the reality itself, in more than me and him. It's like it felt like something groundbreaking has happened in the entire reality. And I remember that at the end of that night, I felt so peaceful. Like there were no more feelings. I felt nothing at all. I didn't feel joy. I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel the need to help him. I didn't feel the need to not help him. I just felt complete peace. Complete peace. And that was the real state of existence. That's when I started to realize it. This neutral state in which you're ready for anything that might need to happen. And you're like in that pure state of zero, pure state of potentiality without feeling to do anything, but being this complete openness and receptive to acting out when a potential needs your energy. So I was there and I felt complete peace. And all of a sudden, it's like I couldn't relate to what happened. So it blew my mind to realize that like, just some hours passed, just maybe 2 days, let's say, and I couldn't relate to the entire year that passed. Like I couldn't understand that that person who lived all those things was me. Like I couldn't relate. I couldn't realize it mentally, like, oh, okay, so these things happened, but I felt nothing. I felt no attachment, nor emotion, nor joy, nor sadness, nothing. It's like it was a character in a movie, and I just saw a movie. It's like I was looking back at it like a movie, like I couldn't even relate to the movie at all. I couldn't understand that like, that happened. So, but I could remember. So I remembered, okay, so these were the course of the events, but I just felt at peace with everything that happened. There was no more pain, there was no more fear, there was no more anger. And then, in the next day, I think this person sent me an email or something, and all of a sudden I noticed how the conversation in the email that he sent the next day was completely, like it was so different. Like it didn't had those words of threats anymore, it didn't have that energy of rage and fury anymore. The message was completely different, it was visibly different. But something within me is like, it knew somehow it is natural to be like this. It knew reality changed, it knew reality shifted, and it just found it natural and normal to be like this. And the thing is that I replied to that email, but my reply was having such a different energy to it. Like when I replied to him, I didn't reply from a place of desperation anymore, but not from a place of made up confidence either. So I just replied from that place of pure peace, but also justness. So I replied from that place of, okay, I see you and I see myself. And I'm not here to save you, not because I would want to do that or not want to do that. It's just not in the script in a way. It's not scripted that I would help you. So I was just completely straightforward. They wrote some lines there, very peaceful, very neutral, very, in a way, clear. And I remember that after that email that I sent to him, it's like a few more days passed, and this being that threatened my life for maybe 7 or 8 months prior to that, or maybe even a year, I can't remember. I think it was a year. Sent another email and said, like, hey, look, I'm leaving the country. So he left the country. And there was no more rage in that last email. And he just said, I'm leaving the country. And he just left the country and I've never heard from him again. Like there were some more emails sent in that year that passed, that followed, but the emails were completely different. It was much more on the practical side of like dealing with some practical things that I was managing his website, for example, and he was writing about the domain and stuff like this. So it was completely neutral, completely nothing. There were some more emails, maybe 3 or 4 during that entire year. And then I've never heard of him again. So it's like after I've done that process of completely staying and feeling the feelings, basically, I've understood that, okay, like reality freaking changed. And it's like so many realizations followed after that moment when I've seen how reality reacted to this inner process. And then I started to test this. Like in the next year that followed, I started to freaking test and freaking start feeling my feelings. Like I started feeling my feelings. I would just stay and feel pain as much as I could, like from different situations, from different people, from different environments. I would just, okay, so I'm in pain. Okay, I need to feel my pain. Because in the past, what I would experience is that all this entire pain would come in my body, in my energetic body, from the people around, from the environment around. This entire reality is in pain. So there was pain everywhere. Like I couldn't breathe or exist without feeling pain in a way, all the time. But in the past, I didn't knew that was pain, and I didn't knew I could do something about it. I didn't had the tools or the capacities to know how to deal with it. So I would just stay in bed for weeks, crying or overthinking, just to just to. I was in denial of that pain, but without knowing I was in denial of that pain. So I didn't know how to feel my feelings prior to that moment. So by not knowing how to feel my feelings, I would just recreate those situations over and over again because those energies would get stuck within me without being processed, and they would be stuck within my energetic body, and they would continue to recreate in the outside environment similar situations over and over again that would make me feel even more pain, even more depressed, even more like not being able to cope with the reality and so on. So after that year, like the next year that followed after that moment when I learned the idea of feeling the feelings instinctually, it's like I started freaking testing this. And I started freaking testing with many things. And I started seeing how reality moves and morphs when a certain energy charge within me, when a certain feeling is discharged, is neutralized, is felt. And I started understanding that feeling the feelings means completely consuming them, completely neutralizing them. And by neutralizing the energetic charge that was in my energetic body, the physical experiences would completely change. So I've experienced like almost miraculous turn of events with many things, almost miraculous things happened. So this is how I knew, like, okay, so this is it. It's like, it's the soul that creates reality and not the mind. The mind only receives energy from the soul and receives the potential, the energetic um, charge, and then takes that energetic charge and then transforms it into manifested, palpable realities. But who creates actually is the soul and not the mind. The mind creates physical realities, but the soul creates potential realities. And it all starts from the soul. So if one learns how to work with its own soul, it's in a way becomes a sort of at the command prompt of its own reality itself. So this is why I started to talk about feeling the feelings. I started writing articles. I started making videos. And at first, I felt like nobody would understand what I was talking about. Like, what do you mean feel the feelings? Because most people would, at best, know how to think and process, use their mind to process their feelings, but not use their own soul to process their feelings. So what most people would do, and most techniques that I found online, and would just try to use the mind to debunk a certain feeling. So, okay, are you feeling hurt? Why are you feeling hurt? Oh, because in childhood, my dad said that thing to me and it hurt me. And then I always remember like this, I'm feeling hurt today because that happened in my past. And oh, okay, so now I understand. So they would release, in a way, the feelings, but that was not neutralizing the feelings. Neutralizing the feelings is like completely dropping the mind. The mind has nothing to do with it, this process. Feeling the feelings is like going completely naked, bare, open as your inner awareness, and merge with that feeling and just sit with it, be with it, to that extent in which you don't exist anymore. You completely stop existing, and only the feeling exists, only the pain exists, and you are there, and you are the pain. You become the feeling, you become the pain, and you sit with yourself as the pain. And this is done through the soul. This is not done through the mind. The mind cannot do this process. The awareness can do it. The awareness that is channeled through the soul can do this. So, this was the process of feeling the feelings. It was going in as deep as one can and dropping any idea that I want to understand what happens. I want to trace it back to when I was a child. I want to trace it back to that person that told me those words. And so this would be completely gone. No need to trace it, no need to understand it mentally, no need to create reasons for what happened. It's just the pure feeling that exists. Because it would be something like, let's ask ourselves, is this feeling real? Is this feeling taking place within me right now? Yes. So if this feeling is taking place within me right now, isn't it much more true to actually sit with the feeling itself rather than try to understand it, to chart it mentally? Because to chart it mentally and to try to understand it mentally, it would mean, again, a sort of rejection, a sort of like, I'm afraid of going there within the feeling. I'm afraid of going that deep. So I will try to understand it mentally. It's like operating on a thing with gloves, you know? You don't want to touch the exact feeling, you don't want to interact exactly with it. You want to just shape it in some way in which it doesn't bother you anymore. This is what the mental processing of feelings is. Reshape it in some way, reshape the entire situation. Oh, okay, so when I was a child and my dad told me that and I froze and I was not able to speak back, maybe now I can speak back. And people start adopting these things. Okay, I will speak back now, and to reshape the situation to maybe not feel what they feel anymore. So it's still a rejection. It's still a holding back, not wanting to touch the feeling, not wanting to get intimate and immersed in it fully. So feel the feelings was different. Feel the feelings was getting completely intimate with the feeling to the extent where you stop existing. You lose your sense of existence. You lose who you are. There is no more way to create reasons anymore, because this feeling exists because that happened, or that told me that in the past, or this person said that, or that event happened, and this is why this feeling exists. No, this feeling exists because this feeling. And this is where it got to the depths of it when I started to realize is, okay, these feelings are not even our own. These feelings are the feelings of the cosmos itself. These feelings are the feelings of this entire world. These are not feelings are not something individual. They pass from a person to another person, trying to be processed, trying to be neutralized, released, seen, understood. They are like beings. So then I started to realize, oh my God, these are beings. These are not feelings, these are freaking entities, freaking beings that want to be perceived, that they have like a secret essence, a secret key buried deep within them. And to the one that manages to go there and sit with them, they will reveal that key. And then I started to realize, oh my God, so the humanity is in the place it is right now, because for the entire of this human existence, people have been running on the same emotions, on the same energies, but no one truly seen them or used them or processed them. So they continued to multiply themselves, the feelings, and continued to create more and more physical realities in which people could process them, could see them, could unravel them. In a way, how they seem is like, no, there were those tales in which the prince was spelled and it was transformed into a frog, and the frog at first felt repulsive to some beings. You see the frog, I won't touch that. No, but inside of it, it was the freaking prince, man. So it just needed somebody to be able to go there and freaking kiss the frog. And then the prince would come out and, oh my God, it was me all along. So this is how basically I'm seeing all these feelings that were running through this entirety of humanity over and over through generations, trying to express themselves, trying to make themselves seen, trying to search for somebody that could see them, that could own them, that could merge with them, that could become intimate with them, so they can reveal something extremely precious that was captured and hidden within them. But most people try to reject them. Most people try to deny touching them. And this is where the entire humanity became a civilization living in limbo. Because as much as they tried to deny these feelings that were running over and over through different civilizations, through different eras, the same feelings. The same feeling of anger, the same feeling of fear, the same feeling of dominance or joy, or any of these feelings were running toward the same, let's say, handful of feelings that were running the entire humanity for cycles of time. Even though the eras have changed, technologies have changed, clothing has changed, how people react and how people behave and how people's desires and preferences and customs and have changed. Everything was just a new play out of the same emotional blueprint. The same core beings, these energetic beings, these feelings, were trying to make themselves seen through all these entire human eras, these entire ups and downs of civilizations. If you look back 2000 years ago, people were driven internally from the same inner forces that are driven today. Like, people were driven by survival and fear and dominance, and they were fighting each other back then, but with other technologies, with other tools, maybe with more respect, or it doesn't matter, but the same friction, the same forces, the same energies existed back then as they exist today. It's the same handful of energetic charges, energetic bodies, energetic entities that run this entire humanity. So I started to understand, oh my God, like, if people would understand what feelings are and they would start to work with their feelings, they would start to get deep, intimate, in tune with them, and have the courage to stay there, stay within that pain, that fear, that shame, everything. Just stay there. Become the shame, become the pain, become the fear. Be the fear. Don't look at the fear as if you're something different than it. Don't look at the shame as if you're an outside observer that's safe and the shame is there and you observe it and you translate it and you describe how it is, and don't keep yourself separated from the shame. Become the shame. Be the shame. Allow yourself to be the shame you feel. Allow yourself to be the pain you feel. So if this merge happens, then I understood that this essence, this precious thing that is captured within this repulsive feeling, this repulsive experience, which is clothed in this outside outlook of pain or shame or fear, of anger, or even joy. It doesn't have to be only the negative feelings. All feelings are the same. Like, a feeling splits in two polarities always. It has a black face and a white face. So it's only the same feeling at the core. If you go to that core, you'll understand what the core feeling is. And if you understand what the core feeling is, you'll be able to retrieve the most precious diamond, the most precious core essence, which is you, which is your true nature. But you need to go deep, and you need to, it's like similar to the hero's journey. These things that would appear in the outside to scare you, but you need to refrain from looking at the monsters as if they are monsters. Your mind would trick you that they are monsters and you need to run away. But if you stay and you look at the monster and you start having a conversation with it and you start getting intimate with it, making love to the monster, then the monster will show itself. Then the frog will transform into the prince, and it will reveal to you a part of yourself. Ourselves, our true self, is like Osiris, has been shattered and distributed through this entire cosmos, and each piece of us has been clothed in such a way in which we would feel afraid of our own self, of our own, a piece of ourselves. It has been clothed in experiences that would make us feel repulsion, denial, fear to approach them. So our own self has been scattered, and then all these pieces have been made to look like monsters, so we don't remember, we don't approach them, we don't touch them, so we remain in limbo like this. We remain forgetting of who we actually are. So the most intense, the most painful sensations, the sensations, the people, the events that make one feel the most scared, the most angry, the most shameful, those things that you want to run away, like turn around and just walk away, like as fast as you can. Those hold the most precious parts of yourself. As paradoxically as that sounds. But you need to be the hero. You need to be the hero that accepts the journey it is in. And once you accept the journey you are in, then it's only like going and talking to the monsters, going and talking to the so-called monsters, kissing the frogs. It's only the pieces of yourself that are captured within them, within these experiences. And this is how you really remember who you are. Because with each piece that is integrated back, with each piece of yourself that is integrated back within yourself by neutralizing the cover, that monstrous, fearful, painful cover, once you feel the feelings, once you learn to feel the feelings, you understand how you're basically neutralizing the cover up. It's like you're wrapping up the cover up and you see what's in the box. And you realize, oh my god, wow, like, and so many memories start to come back. And so many, not only memories, you start to become. It's not mental memories, it's like you become again who you are. Your body starts to remember, not your mind. You start to re-feel more and more as yourself. And that translates in the human life, could translate as determination, more clarity in the mind, more determination, more free flow of just being who you are without fearing so much, of expressing who you are, and without having so many barriers that limit your self-expression. And just feel more clarity in your mind, more peaceful in your soul, more vital in your body. This seems to happen by default when we learn to feel the feelings. And again, it's feeling the feelings, not thinking the feelings. It's becoming one, merged with them. Allowing ourselves to die in them, if that makes sense. With each feeling that is felt, a piece of ourselves is retrieved, seen, and integrated back. And this is how we re-become again who we are. This is how Osiris is reborn. This is how the phoenix is reborn. By learning to talk with the monsters. By learning to kiss the frogs. And then, in those moments, in those deepest, most vulnerable, painful moments, when you're just pain and nothing else, then is where true love can be understood.